All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to CNC Board Game Factory Episode 2. My name is Chris, or Christopher Yee, as I've been known to be called.
And my name is Cam, or as I'm known to be called, Big Cam, Arama Ding Dong, D'Souza
Big Cam
Jr.
Rambutan D'Souza.
Rambutan, yeah.
Yeah.
Those are some fuzzy looking little fruits right there, aren't they?
Yes. Yeah. So I mentioned Rambutan because particularly one, there's a meme that's excellent. It says, "Whoa, Black Betty," and then it shows like four different things in the corners of it. So one of them is Rambutan. One of them is um, was it a woman's Facebook profile? Her name is Pam Lamb.
Yeah.
Whoa, Black Betty, Pam Lamb. Whoa, Black Betty. The bottom right corner is like these lamps that are in the shape of pandas. Panda lamps.
Candle Lamb. That reminds you, there's one I've really liked for a long, long time, and it was a lady's picture on Facebook, and her name was You Got Bonds, and then in parentheses it said Han. And so the people were making Sir Mix-a-Lot jokes about You Got Bonds Han.
All right.
Is a rambutan the same thing as a lychee?
No, I think they're different fruit, but they are both so they're both Asian fruits, and they're both more pokey on the outside
Yeah,
than Americans are generally used to with their fruit. Like pineapple's the limit for people. They're like, no, if a fruit looks like a sea urchin,
yeah.
Americans will count it out, basically.
I think they're like really similar, but a lychee has like a little spiny, bumpy shell, and a rambutan has that hairy thing going on.
hmm
They got
So
to be in the same family though.
yeah, I'm not sure. I've never looked into it, but so part of the reason that I have been thinking about rambutan in general is last week we talked about what do you call it? Fruit salad and fruit smoothie, right? That was my pitch for a game idea, a small little bluffing card game,
Yeah,
betting kind of card game where you're using the cards in your hand to bet on things. So I have this box of 500 blank cards that I bought. This is only like 50 of them or something like that. So the box is sizable. You can buy these cards on Amazon for like $12 each or something like that, and they're a little bit smaller than Dominion cards, I want to say. So anyway, if people are watching
the
the
pack of 500 was $12.
yeah, yeah, it was like
That's awesome.
12 to $15, I believe it was. So
Are they like
anyway,
coated nice like a bicycle deck?
no, no, they're not. They don't shuffle as nicely, but they make really easy prototype cards. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, so maybe I'll like put up a link or something like that. Yeah, I'll see if Amazon still has it. So I started making little cards to use for fruit salad, fruit smoothie, whatever you want to call it. I was like, how do I draw a banana yellow? Because yellow doesn't show up on these. It's brown. It's an overripe banana, I guess. So I was just trying to figure out different colors and different shapes that I could draw simply, and I hit seven different fruits, including like blueberries and grapes, which by the way look very similar when you're just
Yeah,
when you're just drawing them
that's
like
true.
this. But then I was like, I want an eighth fruit for this little goofy drawn version, and so my eighth fruit is rambutan.
That's pretty good rambutan.
Yeah.
Rambutan.
Yep.
I don't know how you say it. I mean, I know you say "Whoa, Black Betty, rambutan"
Yeah.
like that, but
So anyway, yeah. So I made a little demo deck of this, and so I haven't gotten around to trying it. It's been a busy week, but yeah, I'm gonna try your idea. I played a little solo hand of it against just myself, which is kind of pointless in like a bluffing, at a bluffing game or whatever. But uh, one of the things that you mentioned, Cam, was so the idea was you have a hand of say eight cards or whatever. You play a. I've got a two blueberry card here, and I can play it onto the blueberry stack to increase the value of blueberries in everyone's hand at the end of the round by two. Or you can play it on a different fruit stack, say grapes, and now grapes are worth -2 compared to where they were before. And then every leftover fruit you have in your hand is worth just one version of it, right? So if you're still holding, say the like a level 2 grape card, it's not worth two. This is just worth so you multiply the value of the grapes by just the number of cards in your hand, not by value of the card.
Right.
And just going through like the little solo, playing 2, 3 hands or whatever by myself, I actually really liked that because if you hold on to too high a value card, the multiplier gets ludicrous and high and huge. So good intuition on that one, Cam. Good intuition.
That's me, man. CNC Board Game Factory, just out here working with each other. I like that. And maybe I need to start doing this, and maybe you'll inspire me to start doing this. But I like that you're like actually going out and like prototyping all these games you have concepts for, and like doing these little things. And you're working on a fruit salad game on a tabletop sim, and then you're like, "What do you think about your game, Cam?" I'm like, I didn't do anything.
Well, I mean, it helps that this is my whole game right here, right? Like
Yeah,
I already have these easy to prototype cards with, and I was like, well, I can draw fruit really terribly, so why not? So I am excited to try it. I unfortunately didn't get to try it at all this week, but also, yeah, you mentioned I was learning how to try and upload cards and stuff into Tabletop Simulator, so that maybe we could test this out, given that we live across the country from each other,
yeah,
and maybe one night we can get like another friend or two to sit in and try a 4 hand game of it. So
like Rob or the tree.
yeah, exactly.
What up, the tree? I don't know if we're streaming or not, but
Oh
that
yeah,
was for
yeah, we are streaming. Yeah, good,
that
good,
was
we're
for
streaming.
that was for the tree right there.
So anyway, that was my follow up from last week's my fruit salad, fruit smoothie game pitch.
Nice. I have not done a lot of following up on the treasure hunter concept, mainly because that game is gonna need an app, and I'm not an app developer, so that's my excuse for this week.
Yeah, I mean
So,
that's fine. Yeah,
um,
yeah. I mean
but
when you pitched it, I was like, well, I don't know how we're gonna make that, but
it's a large concept. I think, this is getting ahead of us, but I think today I have a concept in the similar family that could be done without an app.
okay.
We'll tease that.
And then my concept is a lot bigger than my last two. Well, my previous concept, the fruit salad game. Um, Not as big, I don't think, as Rocky Road tabletop mini golf.
That's a large board game right there. But we're making it doesn't matter. It's not the size of the developer. It's not the size of the game. It's the size of the concept, Chris.
Hmm.
And so it's okay if I get super fat. As long as the game is lean. Well, not the box doesn't have to be lean, but the concept
Right, right.
has to be tight like a tiger.
What is that from? Why do I know
I mean,
that?
there's that Austin Powers movie where the gold member goes toy like a tiger, but I feel like I've heard that phrase, like I had heard that phrase many times before that came out. So
I'm sure it's a real phrase, but Goldmember is definitely what I'm thinking of. I haven't seen an Austin Powers movie in nigh a decade, so I they're one of those things I'm like cautious about revisiting because they might be terrible, but they might be like classic. I don't know.
I can't remember if coronavirus was already happening or not, or if I was just wasting time one weekend, and I watched like all three of them in a row. And what I will say is none of them are good, but they all have really fantastic moments of really smart comedic moments.
Yeah.
But none of the movies are good.
Okay. I feel comfortable with probably that analysis.
Yeah. So there you go.
There we go. So should we move on to the next segment then? So we kind of did follow up for the next few weeks. I'm not sure how many more weeks, but we're going to pitch a few more games, and so this week included. But before we get there, we have to do our segment for our friend Paul. Things that make you go, hmm.
Things that make you go, hmm.
So Cam, we decided we'll just do one. We'll just kind of do a shared discussion on it rather than two separate things, just to kind of keep the episode lean like a leaguer.
Oh, I like that. But it's pronounced Liger.
Ah, dang it. Haven't watched enough
Uh,
Napoleon Dynamite recently.
yeah, there you go. Unless you're talking about like somebody who's in a league,
A League of Their
because that'd
Own,
be
yeah.
or yeah, or any league. It doesn't have to be their own league. It could be somebody else's
A
league.
League. That'd be a less great movie title. A League of Somebody Else's.
Hmm.
All
Yeah.
right. So, Cam, what have you been thinking about this week? I know you mentioned briefly a cool concept that I wanted to discuss about in things that make you go, hmm.
Hmm. Well, I've been playing a ton of Civilization 6 this week. Um, and I've been playing as the Incas. Because my wife is from Peru, and I've just been jamming on some Civ 6. Chris and I were playing uh Terraforming
Terraforming
Mars
Mars
on
last night.
Tabletop Sim last night, and like for the most part, I would say I was keeping up with the game, but occasionally, like Chris would be taking a turn or two, and I'd be like, okay, it's your turn. Just silence from me. Hey, okay, yeah, you can go now. Go, yeah, sorry, I was fighting the Japanese. By the way, today after I went into my office, I came back and I eradicated them from the map, and now the whole world thinks I'm a jerk. And I don't think I'm that bad of a guy. The Japanese declared war on me, and all I did in return was take over all of their cities and eliminate them from the game. And they're like, "Oh, you're a warmonger." I'm like, well, it's not like I could have hit the make peace button any time and he would have capitulated, but that probably could have happened. But I'll tell you what, you throw a stick at me, I'm gonna throw you a branch. That's right. You don't mess. You don't step to the Incas. By the way, um, I I did build Machu Picchu
Oh,
since
good.
I think that's important when you play your Civ to build your wonder. You know what I mean?
I've
I
never
don't know.
played Civ 6, but I've listened to the soundtrack. The soundtrack is amazing.
Soundtrack is great. Yeah, it's all like the background music from historical fiction movies.
Yeah.
Like you have like your frontier like like bum, bum. You have like your like all your different like I would say you have like music that sounds like very Mesoamerican, music that sounds very Native American. You have like these sweeping like Chinese sounding like I can't it, because I can't make the noises with my mouth correctly. I'm going to end up saying something culturally insensitive by
Yes. Yeah.
by trying to do like oh, this is what Russian music sounds like.
Which, so it's okay. This is not originally what we're going to talk about, but since we're on the topic really quick, Civ 6 is so good. Part of the reason that the music is so immersive and adds to the whole experience is that every culture that's playing in that particular game has a theme, and it starts with their ancient version, a theme played on very like traditional instruments and stuff. And they actually went out of the way to find um, to find performers of those cultures that would perform on their native instruments and perform it in a very traditional style. And then it would come to like a medieval era where they would take the same theme of music and then they would modernize it to up to medieval times with medieval instruments and medieval arrangement. And then they would go through like an industrial era and then kind of a futuristic era. They take the same the theme, a motif, and they carry it through. And just yeah, the power of a motif in music is really really strong and keeps you immersed as things change. And so uh, I I'm a music nerd.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. And so yeah, I mean if you because a game of Civ 6 takes
Mhm.
hours, but if you notice right each as you advance through the different periods of history, it's the same tune, it's the same piece of music. Go just listen to the soundtrack and like listen to any single culture, and then you'll hear how it advances over time, and it's gorgeous.
Huh. I'll have to do that. You are a music nerd. We are both music nerds in I think very different ways,
Yeah,
which is fun.
but
Um.
yeah, but
So
the
what? Oh, go ahead. You
I
go
was,
ahead.
I was gonna
You
say
talk.
the use of motif is really powerful. It's used all the time in film score. It's used all the time in operas and stuff. And I think that I've always found board game design, when I think about it, very similar to like music, like writing a song or writing um, not just a song, but like maybe even an extended piece of music. And so there's tools that you can use that have good callbacks and remind you of certain things. And it's same thing with storytelling. You have moments that set up something a few chapters before, and then a few chapters later in the book, it kind of ties back into it. It parallels and stuff like that makes things more cogent. And so I think that in the game that I'm going to be talking about, I'm going to be pitching today, I think some use of motif like that would be really effective to keep things smooth on the user experience side of things.
Yeah, that's cool. That is neat. The things you were saying are neat.
So, anyways, yeah, that was my thought based on what you were talking about. Civ is really cool.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So anyway, look, we've already been going too long, but here's just a quick thought, and we've already kind of had this discussion when we were talking about things that make us go before we actually were recording things that make us go and see how I brought it full circle. We were doing that before, and now we're doing it now, and so I'm the storyteller. Check this out. I Firaxis, like the Sid Meier Civilization, I think the team has something in common with the team that's doing XCOM now. And I was just thinking about all like the video games I play that have like a really high random setup element. In other words, you might gain characters who have, computer generated names and appearances and stats that you have no control over. Or you may, be playing as the Incas in Civ 6, but you just get dropped in like a small island with no mountains and tons of fish, instead of, like the game, you don't get to necessarily choose, how the game begins, but the way you adapt and do what you do is entirely dependent on you in these games. And it's from a very like low, like, oh, this is, like in XCOM 2, I get a new soldier. I could edit them 100% if I wanted to, and I don't have to keep the, goofy name they gave them. But that's really kind of fun to become attached to the things you're dealt, whether they don't have any real effect on the gameplay or whether they very much do. Oh, I am playing this game and, this roguelike dungeon crawl game, and this time I happen to find this weapon that is a weapon that I would not use normally, but because it has this effect, but it's fun this time because this reason. I was trying to think of how could you put that in a board game without having the board game be a massive board game? Some element of that where you have like these little quirks that just make the game kind of interesting. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because anything I can think of that would have that much, random setup in it would be like the size of a Gloomhaven box. You know what I mean? So to me, like, where are the little elements that make you go, well, that's kind of cool this time, and I think a lot of games have, replayability, because of like different scoring objectives or like, different things that like affect the game that time, but none of them I think do it to the same degree as a video game. But, the problem with a video game is the sky's the limit, You can always add more and put it in the same package, you know what I mean?
Right.
The package is a larger file size, may take longer to, you may have to have a better, computer to play it, but you can always just continue adding to that. Whereas, you add like 4 or 5 expansions, it doesn't fit in your Terraforming Mars box anymore. So anyway, I've been chatting. I don't know. I don't have any ideas here, Chris. I'm going,
Well, one thing I think of, right, is so the Board Boys. Oh, I guess we should say I do the podcast Maple Overboard. Can be part of the Board Boys podcast.
And that's why we're both very famous. People already know that.
Yeah,
We're
I
famous.
assume so. Yeah, all know people watching right now. So what I was thinking is I was on your show, and we reviewed Forgotten Waters by Plaid Hat, and I think in some small ways they have some elements of that in Forgotten Waters pirate game. It's a crossroad system and stuff. Crossroad cards add a little bit of that, in my opinion, which is why Dead of Winter is replayable to the extent that it is. But then also, even in little ways, like unimportant ways, like in Forgotten Waters, when you create your character, like, oh, you're the bone pirate, I'm the I'm the used to be sailor for like a really prestigious ship, and this guy is, he's something else. This guy's a survivor of like a
Yeah.
big attack or whatever. And then it has a Mad Lib story that you fill in. It says like, put in a woman's name, box number 2, put in a form of torture. Okay, fill this in. And like throughout the game, you get to read little story blips that use those Mad Lib things, and it's just funnier than I was expecting it to be.
Yeah, that was funny. I did like that they included a pirate named Generator in case you couldn't think of a good name for your pirate. Like that. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, today I'm Scuzzbeard Pickled Finger. I don't know.
Scuzzbeard Picklefinger. Well, I think that's a good
Yep.
note to end on. That definitely makes me go, hmm.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, right. So we're here to do a podcast about we are going to make a board game, and so today, for those of you million people just listening for the first time today,
Mhm.
the first several episodes of this podcast are going to be about us pitching game ideas to one another. And I'm finding out very quickly in the third time we're doing this, the second official episode, that Chris thinks about his ideas a lot more before bringing them onto the podcast. And for me, it's like 2 hours before, I'm like, what would be a cool idea for a game? So, we'll see. We'll see whose concepts find purchase. But Chris, do you want to go first today, or should I?
Um, let's see. I went first last time, so to be fair, how about you go
Okay.
first this time?
So I'm going to pitch you a game today that I thought about while I was eating my sandwich 1 hour ago. I was sitting
Excellent.
there and I was thinking, like, okay, what sounds fun to Cam today? So, been playing Civ 6. I have expansion in my head, right? And I was thinking about a game where everybody is part of the same society, right? Like, imagine you're like Norway or whatever, right? And you're like, there's some islands out there. We need to colonize those, right? So what everybody's doing is they're taking big ships, all from this. They're all in the same team, right? You guys, there's no like direct conflict to colonize, but everybody wants to be the best, and gain the most power in this new world of like we found this dope new continent or island or whatever, right?
Okay.
So what you're doing over the course of the game is you're loading up big old boats with like dudes and resources and stuff, and you're establishing, like, you go across like a ocean or whatever, and you're establishing not a whole ocean, but like, you take a decent boat trip, right? You're establishing new like little territories on a large, untamed patch of land. Okay. So the way the game works is there's a couple phases in each round. And what you do at the beginning of the round is you do your work like back in like the capital or whatever, where you're leaving from. And you'll go and like hire, people who want to go live on the, new place. To colonists. You'll build like big ships and like pack them up full of stuff, supplies and, this and that. And you'll do a few other things like diplomatic type things or like economic type things to keep your systems going, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then the next phase is when everybody decides whether or not they want to send any boats that round. And you'll have the phase where the boats are crossing.
Mm.
And then the third phase is where you can utilize boats that have made it across to like start setting up or adding to, colonies you already have. And then the fourth phase is your colony management. And then you have like a fifth phase of like cleanup and negotiations. Okay. So here's my broad idea for the way the gameplay works. Everybody either has an asymmetrical role they play in this, government, or people will bid for like, or like get, or like draft whatever their role is for the round, and they'll like come up, from a deck of like rolls. But some ideas I had is everybody gets to kind of be very present in one aspect of the game. And I would think the game would be meant for 3 to 5 players, but there'd be like 8 or 9 different roles that could be played. And so each of them would have like interesting effects on the game.
Okay.
Like, and maybe those aspects would only be present if people were playing. Or maybe those aspects are always present, but you are the benefactor of those aspects of the game. I haven't really thought of it yet, but here's some roles I've thought of. One person is like the governor of like the old city, and you get to choose every round whether you're going to tax what's going on in the city, or you're going to tax what's going on in the colonies. And it's a secret card you play face down, and you flip it up during the cleanup phase. And then basically people have to decide whether to like do a lot of work like in the city phase or do a lot of work in the
colony island phase.
In the colony island, and because the person who's the governor is going to benefit off of that. And I'm not sure there'd be that much direct conflict like me taking from you. It might just be like if more work was done in the colonies and the governor put down the colony card, they're going to make more money at the end of the round. Likewise, I had an idea for like a privateer type role where like you, every time during the ship phase, if people are sending their ships, you can like, so you get to choose whether to like take resources for every ship that passes, maybe not from the other players, but it's just like, oh, I'm getting colonists, I'm getting this and that. But if you think it's a round where like that's not going to happen very much, you can choose another face down, or maybe everybody has a couple different face down things they can play, and this is their effect this round. There'd be one for like the merchant guild or like the shipbuilders or society or whatever, where you could choose to benefit off of like how much work is happening on the ships, or how much work is happening with other resources or materials. There's somebody who's in charge of like the development of the colonies who has a choice to make, and they benefit this way or that. And then I think like probably everybody would have a passive ability when it came to the way the game is played. So like, characters who had more of a slant towards managing things in their city would maybe have a passive ability for that kind of stuff. Ones who are more like out colony based would have a better experience, building the colonies. The colony building, I think, would be pretty simplified. It would be like you would go when you have people there, you like need a certain amount of colonists and resources to plant in a certain area. And they would start out as very small colonies, but you could bring more resources and people to grow those, or you could take them to new ones. And it would be like a bunny kingdom type area control where like once you have a place, it belongs to you. But it might be Chinatown-esque where I don't want to make the game overcomplicated, but I think it would be neat if you could trade like the resources the new colonies have back and forth between one another during the cleanup phase. Like maybe there's cows and pigs here, but maybe there's like wheat over there. Mm-hmm. And you need both of those to make your colonies grow, so you can trade those with one another. But you could also trade plots of land and money in between too. And I think it would give it a like really nice soft economy where like maybe the way the game's being played that day, like money is super abundant, so it's less valuable when trading. But like nobody has gone and colonized this part of the board that has all the livestock. And so if you're behind, but you can make a bunch of money by being the person who kind of corners that. Finally, so I don't know if it'd be like worker placement or you just like kind of choose what you're going to do, down in the city stuff. Probably maybe it'd be worker placement. There'd be like everybody could do everything, but there'd be like better options. Like if you're the first person to build ships, you can build them more efficiently.
Okay.
Or you have to use like, but so the final aspect of the game, and I think this would be cool, is there are ways to get points during the game largely based off of like accessing luxury type resources out in the colony board that would give you points every round. But a lot of the game would be end game scoring. And I think there would maybe be 3 points in the game where you play a scoring card. And that's going to be one of the like the end game scoring things at the end of the game, or maybe like 2 points in the game or something. Mm-hmm. And I think so. One of the factions I thought of would be one that gets to play theirs face down, so people don't see what scoring objective is going to be there for them. I wouldn't want to have enough where it got complicated, but you would have a hand of scoring objectives, and maybe everybody get to play 2 over the course of the game. But there would be ways you could like shuffle those in and out if there was something you were looking for, or like continuing to grow your hand. So maybe at the end of the game, like every plot you have on the colony is worth like a point, but like there's a card that doubles up cows. There's a card that gives you an extra point for every $3, but everybody gets to score that,
Yeah.
and everybody gets to see it, but they get to see it like at a point where you could have already been working towards it, and they don't know what you're going to play, but they have some time.
Because those cards were in your hand the whole time, so you know I'm working towards this thing. I'm going to play this card halfway through the game, or I'm going
Yeah,
to play this card at the end of the game, so it's a big surprise. Ha 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 ha! Money. No one else is
yeah.
working towards money.
I was thinking that, yeah, maybe you set it up so that you play a scoring card for the end of the game, like nearly halfway through the game. So you have like 60% of the game to work towards that one. And then you play the other one at like 80%. So you have like a little bit of time to like bounce back. So you can't just get gobsmacked, you know. But those are the kind of concepts I have for the game. So there would be like some type of, I would say there would be like the city phase would be like very like Euro, and like I am trying to be efficient here and prepare well. Then the part where you're crossing is like you have to make a choice. You probably have to expend resources in your boats to like sail further to like places further away in like this island that you're going to, where you
Okay.
could get like access to better or maybe less, fought over patches of land. And then the third phase would be like kind of an engine builder. So, and then yeah, so that's my idea for the game. I think it's a cool thing. I think it would have the opportunity to be like maybe one of the funnest games of all time. I think it also would have the opportunity to be like a complete mess that nobody would ever want to play. I think there'd be plenty of ways you could make it like pretty tight and easy to learn. I think there'd be a lot of ways you could make the game really shambleized, way too much content, and just like a big stupid rule book full of garbage.
Right.
So, but that was the concept I came up with today.
All over a sandwich, all over a coleslaw and
It was a fake Reuben. It was a faux Reuben.
for Reuben. Yeah.
A faux Reuben.
I like the sound of it because I like worker placement games. Of all the games ideas that I've had over time, I've never really come up with like a solid worker placement game idea for some reason, even though it's one of my favorite mechanisms. And when you discuss, for example, like that governor role where you can tax either the activities in the city or the activities in the colony or whatever, I like one of the things that I thought of was an underappreciated, brilliant mechanism in Architects of the West Kingdom is the it's the tax pool. It's done in a very simple way, right? So you take an action to buy a helper card, and it costs 3 silver, but 2 of the silver are like regular colored, and then one has like a red tinge. So
Yeah.
every time you take a red tinged cost action, the red tinged coins go into like a collective tax pool. And so that was one of the things I thought of. There's really brilliant ways to make a role like that work, where every action you take in the city costs money, but each action has a certain amount of it becomes like potentially taxable. And so if you were the governor and you reveal, hey, I played the city card, then you take all those taxed funds towards your character. So like I think there's ways that a lot of these grandiose ideas could work and still work simple.
Yeah. And I think that's the important thing is a game like this, I think has like you would have to distill it down to basically just the concepts I was talking about. This is the kind of thing where it'd be really easy to be like, oh, we could make this a very grand game. But I think it would work best as a very gentle process, like you do this, then this, then this. during this time, everybody plays their roll card that they choose face down.
Mhm.
You reveal them in round 5, and then you just do them. It would be easy to go like, oh, we need to have like 8 different resources on this colony, but I think it would work best if there were like 3. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think you could distill it down to like, if you want to grow, you need to feed this colony X amount of each resource to expand it, every round to take hold of more. And so you could just put this island on like either like a hex or a cube or like squares. And I think it's the kind of thing where it'd be exactly the same every time. I don't think you would try to make a modular board.
Mhm.
Or you could, but I think this game, I think it would be fun to have like the social component of like, I'm going to trade you this for this, and the best way to make sure that people are going to be trading, I think, is to maybe not set it up so that one person can go build somewhere where it's just perfect, because of the random setup.
Right. So you'd have to create intentional scarcity in the way that the island is set up so that people that go there, if they really want to like hit it super hard, it would take like 3 rounds at least to build in the cow spot and the wheat spot and the lumber spot or something like that. So like there's not a single spot where they say, perfect, this will give me access to everything. I don't need to trade these for the rest of the game.
Yeah, and what about this? Like each square you want to grow each round for each colony needs a payment of each 3 resource types, which you can bring over in boats.
Mm-hmm.
You can get those from, you can bring that stuff over, but that takes time. Maybe there's like a few different types of colonists you can bring over as well. And some of them can link between 2 of your colonies so that you can trade resources with your own colonies to grow them, and or maybe they all do. Maybe you just, the colonists you have all can do the exact same stuff, but you have to have the right amount. So like to keep a colony going, you have to have a dude in the colony. And if you want to trade between 2 colonies, you have to have one more guy to go between the 2 colonies. But once it reaches a certain size, then you need to have 2 guys managing a colony or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But the colonies are really important because each square you have at the end of the game is worth a point or whatever.
Sure.
So you're trying to take over as much as possible. And then maybe, as far as like the end game scoring goes, maybe I'm making it too complicated. Maybe everybody just plays a scoring condition that's going to be tacked on halfway through the game that they've had a chance to work on, but now everybody else can work on it too. And one of the asymmetrical player powers is they get to play theirs face down, and that you just make it simple like that. I don't know. I think the thing could be done in a way that was not burdensome. Maybe I'm wrong.
Have you played the Vital Lacerda game On Mars? It's the most recent
have
one that
not.
just came out. Okay.
No, it looks cool though.
It does look cool. I think it's on Tabletopia, which I've not yet figured out. Barely getting down Tabletop Simulator with you.
They're similar.
Yeah.
I am less jazzed on Tabletopia because it just doesn't run very well on my laptop, and I think it's because we're all connected to like some server instead of connected to like somebody else hosting it. I don't know. And we're doing it from a browser, not a dedicated program too.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. So I've played On Mars, and one of the things, it's a worker placement game, and it takes place, like, the left side of the board is all in space, like on the space station or whatever, and then the right side of the board is the on the planet stuff, and both sides are kind of worker placement-y.
Yeah.
And so how it works is you take your actions on one side of the board, and then the shuttle will go from the surface down to the, from the space station down to the surface, and the next round will go from the surface up to the space station. And so it kind of reminds me of this idea of you have actions that are exclusively on one side, and then you have different types of actions you take which are exclusively on the other side, done differently than On Mars, of course, but the idea of kind of splitting up the different actions you can take is pretty clever, I think, and that's something I'd like to see explored more. So this is a cool idea.
Yeah, I like it. I didn't think super hard about it, but I think the fun for me, and I think you and I are similar guys, I think we're different on this. I think you like to have like a plan coming in. For me, I think sort of the fun of it is like popping the ideas out sort of
Right.
Like for you, game design is like music, and it's like this thing you write, and it's beautiful. For me, game design is like moving one's bowels, and it's like whatever comes out comes out. And hopefully, I ate well enough today to produce something solid.
This is disgustingly enlightening, Cam.
Well, it's just you got to understand who you are and roll with it. I think. I think one of the most important, like the key. I think one of the keys to being a person who's well adjusted is understanding your limitations and flaws.
Yeah, working within what you got,
Yeah.
You and I are admittedly no Brad Pitts, which is why we have not gone into acting.
Well, that's your opinion about me, but as far as flaws goes, none of mine are physical.
All right, cool. So, any other thoughts on? Um, do you have a pitch name for like a work in progress name for this?
um,
The little
no,
island that could be
no,
colonized.
I don't. Yeah, no, I don't know. Well, pending. It's pending. It is a pending name.
All right.
Colored Cube Manufacturer 2.
All right. So, good to move on to mine then.
100%. I think we spent a really good amount of time on that. I think we're gonna have our podcast be about an hour this time, which is, I think, just so perfect.
Yeah, that's my hope too. All right.
Yeah.
So I say that's my hope because now I'm about to try something a little bit different, and if it completely crashes everything, then I apologize. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share some visuals, some sketches that I put together, because I have this notebook here, which has been kind of my design notebook for a few years now, and I have ideas and thoughts in here. I mean, some bad ones here, like this at one point was a game about being a heavy metal band that was also
Ooh.
demon fighters, and you would like fight these monsters and stuff. This goes years back, but the idea that I thought has the most potential is one. Let me see if I can change the screen here.
So is this one that's been an idea of yours for quite a while?
It has been quite a while indeed. So let me share my screen with you, Cam, which I think is going to make the video look a little bit funny, but yeah, it'll be fine. So I'm sharing you a Google Drive folder. So here's the other thing that's really important. If you're listening to this on audio only, not watching the video, you're not going to see my sketches, my fantastic sketches. We started a Board Game Geek guild, which is guild number 3773,
Yep.
which is a sweet number, super easy to memorize. So go and check out the CNC Board Game Factory Guild on Board Game Geek 3773. And we also started a Facebook page specifically for CNC Board Game Factory so that I could put up links and stuff. So as we like come up with more ideas and more sketches and actually start kind of developing stuff, you can see it. So what I've got going on here, this is a Google Drive where if you're just listening to the audio, you can go ahead and find links on our Facebook page or the BGG Guild, and then you can actually go in here and listen as I talk through the different exhibits. So it looks like it's streaming correctly. Okay, so yeah, that should work. So, and the Google Drive should be available for anyone to go and look at and look at the different stuff, which I think will become more important as we develop some of these ideas more. But I wanted to try it out first with this to see if I could make it so that people could see my drawings and stuff. So, Cam.
I like what you're doing.
Cool. I played, in my day, a lot of Final Fantasy VI and a lot of Final Fantasy VII. So this idea is kind of inspired by Final Fantasy VI, the idea of a big adventure game where you have different classes of characters with different abilities, and so basically imagine an asymmetric cooperative game where you run around and you're trying to smash all the baddies and fight bosses and stuff, right? But every single character is played with a different mechanism.
Oh.
And so, what I mean by that is, so far I've only come up with three of the four, presumably four characters that there would be in the game. And so you would have like some sort of spell wizard type person, like a spellcaster. You would have a big mech warrior who would be like heavy and sluggish, and then you'd have like a swordsman or a knight or something like that who runs around quickly and can fight lots of stuff. Um, and so my thought on how these different characters would be portrayed through different mechanisms would reflect those types of characters and what they would have to do. So one of the characters is played with Mancala. One of the characters is played with a Zolkin type worker placement, and the third one, the swordsman, is represented by a card manipulation game. So let me show you the sketches I have here.
Let's see it.
So this is the wizard, and so this is his Mancala bowl here. So inspired by actual Mancala, you have a big empty bowl on one side, and then you have smaller other little pits or like little bowls that you're moving these gems or rocks or whatever around, and these would represent the different types of spells that you would cast. And as you so you have three gems, say in each of these things. You pick up the thing in the large heal area. So you'd activate the large heal, and then you would move, three gems and drop one in each of the subsequent bowls. Um, or I think my original idea actually is you pick up gems from somewhere and you drop them off, and wherever you land in is the spell that you activate. So I pick up, three gems from here in the small heal bowl. I drop one off in Fireball, which doesn't activate it. I drop one off in this like empty receptacle, and then I drop the last one in the Stop spell. So very much like Final Fantasy, you stop something, you stop a bad guy, you make him lose a few turns or something like that. So eventually, as you're Mancalaing these stones or these gems around, you're dropping more and more off into this big receptacle bowl. And so you'd have to do something like if you land in the receptacle bowl with your last gem. So I pick up one from this bowl here. I drop it into the big receptacle. Then you get to pull out a certain number of those gems. I wrote three on here, which I think is probably really restrictive. Maybe you pull them all out and then you reseed them into an area. And so basically, like, I thought this would make a lot of sense that if you're a wizard, like this would be a cool, unique spell casting type of mechanism, is using a Mancala, like a solo Mancala circle.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I have some thoughts on it, but why don't you tell me about the rest of the game?
Okay. So the mech character would be big and sluggish, but like a big heavy hitter. So this is kind of like Zolkin worker placement slash programming, you might call it. So this is like a mix of like a programming board. So if you have three pawns or three workers you can put out, so on your turn you can put them onto one of these starting spots. There's like these tracks of different lengths that you can go to. So this is exhibit 1.2 for anyone listening to the audio. If they want to go into the mech picture in the Google Drive. So every round, what you do is you put some workers out on like the starting spaces of these three different tracks. So move and machine gun and jetpack or something like that. And then at the start of your next turn, everything that's out here advances one space. And once it reaches the final space of the action, you can pull them off and you can take action. You can use those actions and stuff. And so the really basic things like move your mech and rotate your mech and like punch something next to you, like those basic things take one turn. You put out the piece one turn, and then the next round everything advances one space. Those are ready to go. But if you want to use something like your big machine guns or your big lightning gun or something like that, those are going to take more turns to advance along the way before they can actually fire off. And then there's also this upgrade action here, which would be to get more like workers out, more of your pawns out, so you can actually use them, like use more actions and stuff. But if you have more of these upgrades, you're kind of causing stress on your machine. Therefore, you are going to have like less defense or something like that.
Oh,
So
Neat.
yeah. And then my last one is the swordsman, and this one is as another completely different mechanism. This is all about cards that you have in hand, and so cards would have something like a movement ability, amount of fight ability, and then the amount of cooldown time needed. So you would play a left card and you would play a right card and pair them together. So you might have a quick strike or a quick slice or a quick blaze, or you might have a running strike or a dark evade or something like that, right? So
Yeah.
you combine these two cards together, which would give you some sum total sum of how many movement you have, how many attack that you have, and then how much cooldown time. So if you combined a one and a one card like these two, then it would go down onto this cooldown track onto the number two space, and then it would take 2 rounds to get those cards back into your hand.
Right.
Whereas like a really powerful card like the dark modifier, or like a dark strike or whatever, a dark slice here would be a 3 and a 2 cooldown time. Therefore, it would have to go onto the number 5 space, and it would take 5 rounds for that to cool down to eventually get back into your hand. So yeah. So anyway, those are 3 different classes that I came up with in this big asymmetric cooperative fight game. And my original envisionment would be that this would be like a cool campaign, like maybe a 5 game campaign. And the reason that it would only be 5 sessions long or 5 games long is because let me stop sharing my screen with you. Do you want this screen up so that you can
Nope.
talk?
Nope. Yeah, I gotcha. I was
Okay,
taking note.
cool. Where? How do I turn off screen share? There we go. You're back. All right. So anyway, that's my thought on that. And the reason it would be like a 5 session campaign or like a very short number of games instead of like 12 or 17 would be what I would want is you play through 5 sessions and then you can jump back to the first session and make a different decision and go down a different branch so that you
Yeah.
might be encouraged to replay 5 different sessions, but your original path was A, and then you might go A, B, 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 C, and then you might play it again, and then you realize session A can actually lead to like a choice D right off the bat, and then you go through the D storyline, or they can kind of interchange and stuff. So you make it short enough and exciting enough that someone says, "I'm going to play the fighter, the swordsman guy, all 5 sessions. Next time, I want to be the mech guy, and let's make a different decision. Let's help this villager instead of kill him or whatever, and then let's see what story paths that opens up."
I think that's super neat. Um, my thoughts on your campaign, because we'll start there.
Hmm.
So, what if you have, I don't know, so how many people do you see this game being for ideally at the same time?
2 to 4, maybe 1 to 4. If it's solo, you might have to control 2 characters or something like that.
Yeah. What if the choices or like the things that popped up during the game, like certain choices required certain members of the party to be there?
Hmm.
In other words, like let's say you have 6 characters and your party makes these choices, but like in maybe everything you do, like there's like a little, like the characters make choices together, but like say there's like a little wizard hat by the thing, there's a third choice only the wizard could do, and maybe they get to override and choose that choice
Hmm.
if everybody's still like, well, we want to do this, the wizard's like, no, we're going to do the wizard thing. I don't know, maybe that's a bad idea, maybe that's a good idea. Second, what if you actually unlocked things during the campaign based on the characters you were playing,
Okay.
and then had some unlocks for the next run happen when you finish the campaign with one of the resolutions? Because I would take it there'd be a few different resolutions to the thing.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So like maybe you get a piece of wizard loot and knight loot and mech loot if you finish a chapter with wizard, knight, and mech.
Hmm.
And so you have like, a wizard box, and it's like, if this happened, pull wizard card A1 or whatever, pull knight card B5 and pull, and now you have that. So it's not like, you're opening like new packages every time and that get crazy expensive. You're not ripping open new envelopes. You just pull out of a deck. And because I think it would be neat if you had maybe some overlays too for the characters too, where like for session 2, now the wizard can take like their new spell and put it on top of one of their old spells on the Mancala board.
Yep.
Or like actions for the the mech or the this and that. It'd be really easy to do with the wizard and the fighter because the fighter has cards but I think that'd be really cool. But I think you need 6 characters, and I've only thought of 2, and I haven't really thought out their. I'll leave this up to you, their mechanisms.
All right.
But I think if this is going to be Final Fantasy VI based, it would be silly if you didn't have a summoner character.
Yeah.
I think you need one of those for sure. And then I think you also need either a thief or a ninja as well. But I don't know exactly what their mechanisms would be, and I'll leave that up to you.
There is a character in Final Fantasy VI, Umaru, the Yeti, that you can get like in the last chunk of the game, like the second half of the game, and he's just a berserker. All he does, he automatically runs around and like hits things every time that he's in battle. So that'd be a fun character to play. You just don't do anything.
Auto do, yeah, because all the characters have different, like slightly different play styles in 6, right?
Yeah, they all have like some unique abilities and stuff.
Yeah. No, I think it's a very cool idea. I like it. And I think it'd be really fun. People would want to play again. And maybe instead of like having, maybe you just. So it would be the same 5 chapters, right? But it'd be you'd always start with the same first chapter, right? Would there be different chapters based on decisions made?
Yes, exactly. So you could go to chapter 2.1 or 2.2 or 2.3. You know what I mean? Like, do you kill the village elder like you were commanded to at the start of your mission, or do you hear him out and listen to what he has to say, or do you disregard the mission and do something different? You know what I mean? Like, so like those type of like
So is it
big choices.
is it a double choice every time? Meaning like if you have 5, I mean that's going to create several different scenarios, right? Because once you double up everything, that's 1, 2, 4, 8, 16. And to me, it'd be really hard to write 16 different end scenarios.
Yeah, so I think that what I would do is I would create a chart where everything starts with chapter 1, and then there's 2 potential chapter 2s, and then maybe 3 or 4 chapter 3s, right? But some of those chapter 3s will lead into other same chapter 3s based on things, or at least the same map, but like a different story card bit or something like that. You know what I mean? Where you could play the same like fight of which bad guys come out, which boss to fight, or something like that. But the story can be written in such a way that you're fighting this dragon. Is the dragon part of the kingdom that you were trying to defend, or is the dragon a surprise enemy that one of the villagers pulled out, and you're like, oh my gosh, I wasn't expecting to fight a dragon here. I think even just the framing device can make the same map feel different.
Nice. So you're a Final Fantasy VII fan. You really want to make an homage to the game. You have one character that dies irrevocably, and you have to play a new character.
That would be one way to do it. But yeah, so that's what I was thinking with like it doesn't have to be Final Fantasy, the board game, but just that idea of several of the Final Fantasies have really good stories where people change alliances or allegiances, or there's a bigger story than what's kind of going on. I start off literally just going to go quell this village that's in rebellion. I could choose to join the rebellion, or I could choose to put them down, and depending on what happens, there's going to be 2 very different branching story arcs at that point. Something like that really drives the story along. But I think also having 3, 4, 5, 6 maybe different characters would make them very fun to play, and I would be looking over at the knight person with his like card combo thing and say, "Ooh, I'd like to try that sometime soon."
That'd be fun, yeah.
Yeah, but none of them could be too uniquely difficult, you know.
Right.
So they'd have to be somehow both familiar things. Like a lot of people understand Mancala. A lot of people understand combine a left and a right card together and make a specific effect.
You know you have a dice manipulation one too.
Yeah, I haven't been able to figure out what that would be, but for sure, like something has to be dice. Something has to be. ugh, I don't know. That's what I'm at a loss for. What that fourth character would even be, which is why in my notebook here it's been years and I've had three guys or three characters, I should say.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think that maybe your summoner could be uh they could have like a hand of uh like animal parts cards. You know what I'm saying? And then you have to like you draw them and you have like it's like a deck builder and you have to like construct like an animal and when you finish one it has like the effects listed on like each part of the card.
Like a little personal deck building game or something like that. That'd be interesting.
Right, right. So like yeah, so you have like like the head of a lion and like the body of like a giraffe and then like the feet of like a hippo and it summons like Rathapo and it does like stuff based on like each time you play a card it has a small effect and when you finish an animal then it has like a large effect.
That would be such an interesting puzzle. But for sure, a Lyrafapo is something I want now in my game.
Yeah, Lyrathapo, baby.
Yeah. So my
So
oh
go
sorry,
ahead.
continue. No, no, you go on.
No, I was just gonna say so. It's a pretty good idea.
Cool. I appreciate that. Appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, one of the hard things about it is one, since it would be a cooperative game, you'd have to come up with a system for how the enemies would work. Which have you played Gloomhaven?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like trying to remember the like whenever when did I play? I think that we're doing it right, but I'm too lazy to go read the rule book again and read all the nuances of does this monster move this particular direction? Which way does it go? Which I was like, well, it focused on this character because of initiative and closeness, and it goes for it. Like we play it a little bit imprecise, and so I wouldn't want if there's going to be four different characters with asymmetric not just powers, but literally asymmetric game mechanisms, plus controlling the AI, controlling the bad guys. Like I would want somehow to keep it all simple, which is a tall order, and I have no idea how to manage that AI, the enemy part of it. So anyway, that's why I wanted to pitch it. Is that I think that there's a lot of potential here that could really be like ironed out and actually made to work.
One last thought is you make unlockables happen a lot, and once you have completed, I don't know, or maybe people can always make certain choices, but like if they make a choice, there would be like a little exclamation point by it, and like what you're planning to do is something like maybe set up the game so if you fail, you have to start over at the beginning. Like you unlock something like to make your character stronger when you fail too, but then
Okay.
you got to start over again. And what you do is like a lot of the different story choices, you have like little red exclamation points, and it's like, hey, you only do this if you think you can really handle it, because this is going to be a very hard thing.
Hmm.
And so maybe there's different story arcs you only take if you're worthy of the challenge, and the less you've played the game, it's going to be harder. But it's still going to be hard even if you've like geared out your people pretty well.
Oh,
And
interesting.
like that path could lead you to like the ultimate resolution of the game.
I like it. I like it.
I don't
That's
know.
interesting to kind of to once again re-encourage a little more replaying of the same system.
Yeah.
And
Like you get there at like quest 3 and you've made like the correct choices, and then there's like an exclamation point, and then if you get through that but it was like super hard, you can divert back to the main storyline, but you can make another exclamation point choice that you do round 4 and it's super hard, and then you can divert to the final 5, but then you can make one more exclamation point choice to go to like the ultimate super dragon. I don't know.
yeah, yeah, that'd be cool. And yeah, like you said, decks of cards that unlock character abilities and stuff. Like I definitely had that
Mhm.
thought of that little mage Mancala board could be adjustable. You could put upgraded spells on there. Stuff. Yeah, I love the legacy game experience. I love campaign games and stuff, and so that would be fun. A fun, real challenge to make something that would be cool like that, and not have it completely fall apart within 10 minutes of playing it.
I had another thought too about the mage. I didn't have a ton of thoughts about the knight and the mech, although I think you could make those both more fun by tooling around with them a little bit.
Hmm.
The mage could be cool if they had different types of like different colors of beads,
Hmm.
and if you landed like a yellow bead into a yellow spell, Trajan style, you know what I mean? You get to do like a powered up version of a thing. But if you drop a yellow bead into a bowl of a yellow spell that has 2 other yellow beads in it, then you do like the ultimate version of the spell.
Okay. Yeah. Or maybe if you drop a yellow bead, like just spitballing something here. Let's say that you have a yellow spell 2 spaces away, but you pick up 4 beads, and your last bead drops into whatever spell you activate. But along the way, if you drop that yellow gem into the yellow spell slot, maybe you can activate both of them. The one you land in and the bonus for lining up yellow and yellow. Like there's a lot of fun things that you could do, and those don't even have to be opening game mechanisms. Those could be unlocked over the course of the campaign.
Yeah, I think you've made a good game there. It's finished. We're ready. We can put it out.
All right, perfect. Yeah, let's put it in a tabletop sim and we'll play it tonight.
Would you just send me all the content real quick? Hey, so today I made the easier to make game for once.
Ah,
Actually, no, Firehouse Fairies is way easier to make than Rocky Road Mini. So I'm actually 2-1 right
two to
now. You
one.
just you really smoked me last time in terms of easy to make.
Yes,
Uh,
yes,
I bit
yeah,
off a big old chunk of yeah. But I feel like this one, the game I'm trying to make, would be monumentally simpler than the one you're talking about today. So we'll see.
I
We'll
think
see when
so.
we
Yeah,
make all. We'll see when we make all of these games.
perfect. Yes, but I like the sound of both of them. I really like your idea of like the multiple stages of the game. Right, you have the city worker placement, you have the venturing across the ocean, and then you have the um, what do you call it? The colonizing of the island phase, and I think that sounds like a really good crunchy game that I would probably enjoy as long as the trading and bartering stuff was done right. But
Yeah, it would either be done right or it wouldn't be done at all.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
So, Jinx.
I'll call mine finally fantasy.
Finally. So we're at about an hour 10. So we did pretty good.
Hmm.
I think we could. I think we can bring this down to a solid hour
I think
as our
so.
ideas are get tighter and more crisp. Or maybe they'll just get longer. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see.
So what do we need to say to all these people? Like, hey, listen to this podcast. Tell us what you think. Board Game Geek Guild, ETTE in lead speak 3773, right?
Yeah. 3773.
Yeah, we're lead. We're lead, baby.
We're elite. We got Twitter handle at board_factory. And then the Facebook group, I don't know how to search for that. Just look for CNC Board Game Factory or something on Facebook.
Yeah. And search for the outro song I'm going to probably try to have ready for the next time we do this podcast, because I still haven't figured out how to record a nice thing into my computer.
Sweet. All right. Anyway, my name's Chris. Thanks for watching.
And my name's Cam. Thanks for watching or listening.
That's
Smash that like button. Hit subscribe. Ring the bell for notifications. They always say that, isn't it? Is that those things people always say?
oh man, they're the worst.
Smash
Yeah.
that like button. Hey, you guys, I need you to crush that like button.
Obliterate the bell for me,
Yeah.
please.
Yo, kids, I need you to smash that like button for Minecraft, subscribe for Fortnite, and hit that bell for what other game do little kids like?
I don't know, Morgan
Uh,
Freeman Farm Simulator? I don't know.
Morgan Freeman Farm Simulator. We'll be doing PSN giveaways, and I probably shouldn't promise anything I can't.
No, we're gonna end it
Yeah.
now. You're a good man,
Yep.
Cam. All